Taiva cha me man Bhutani cha pashyami viparitani keshava. Translation goes, I'm now unable to stand here any longer. I'm forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune. O Krishna, the killer of Kesi Demon. Then we go to text number 31. Naja Shreyo Nupashyami Hatva Sajanam Ahave Nakankshe Vijayam Krishna Nacharajyam Sukanicha. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivedanta, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Chalam Ganmangai, Padam Hambante, Shigram Tentarnam, Himandam, Shri Chaitanya Ishvara. So here we see, before we go into the slokas, I'll just give a small introduction. So how we see here the Pandavas and the Kauravas, they have assembled here in the battlefield of Kuruksetra. The Pandavas are devotees of the Lord and the Kauravas are not so. So Krishna took Arjuna in front of both the armies. After seeing both the armies, Krishna showed who are all there. And Arjuna, who was initially wanting to fight, then after seeing them, army arranged on the other side, where his grandfather, his teacher, his relatives all were present, he decided that he will not fight. So he is going to give different reasons for not being able to fight. So in the first chapter, we see in sloka 28 to 30, he expresses his compassion for his friends and relatives. From 31 to 35, he expresses that there is no enjoyment even he becomes victorious in the battlefield. From text 36 to 38, he expresses fear of sinful reactions. And from text 39 to 43, he expresses destruction of family traditions. And in chapter 2, text number sloka 6, he expresses indecision in relation to the question of fight. So today we will discuss sloka 30 and 31, where he expresses compassion for friends and relatives and no enjoyment even if he is victorious. Now, Arjuna, if we see here in the purport, we will not have time to read the purport. Now, first point is that Arjuna was feeling very much impatient in the battlefield. Now, this impatience is something that is, you will see in our own lives. Many times we see people running around all the way from morning to evening, handling too many things from the time they wake up from their bed until the time they go to bed. They have so many activities to perform, whether it is a small child going to school or a household member who is going to office, or even a housewife who may be working these days, or she may be a housewife working at home and taking care of the household things. But then the life is such that today that everybody is running around, and this impatience is a very common factor. But one thing that everyone must understand, that expression of impatience need not be the ultimate, because ultimately we have to realize what we are, who we are, how we go about it, conducting ourselves and do our duties. So it is said that there are generally two types of results that people get out of performing their duties. And one thing is that those who take birth in this material world, they all have some other duties to perform. So whether he is a Brahmana, Krishna has actually very nicely designed this Varnasrama system. And he himself says in Bhagavad-gītā, Chatur Varnam Maya System Gunakarna Vivagasaha. So all those who are born in this material world, they are classified into 4 categories. That is 4 Varna: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. And each one has their own duty to perform. Now, a Brahmana is supposed to be taking care of This is also given in the Bhagavad-gītā, Chalyajan, Yajan, Padan, Padan, Dhan, Patigraha. He accepts charity and he gives knowledge and he studies, well studied in scripture, performs sacrifices and so forth. A Kshatriya are generally supposed to rule over a kingdom, and the system that used to be prevalent before in the years, and which is the right way also, is that the smaller kings would surrender their smaller territories to the bigger kings, and the bigger kings would rule the kingdom based on the advice of the Brahmanas who are well versed in the scriptures. The Brahmanas will always give advices to a Kshatriyas based on the knowledge that they have got from the scriptures. And the scriptures are none other than those that are given by the Lord himself. So the kingdoms were ruled very nicely and everyone was prosperous. And Yudhishthira Maharaj and the Pandavas, they ruled the kingdom of the earth during their reign, and they ruled it perfectly well. So duties are also allocated according to the varnas that one belongs, and these varnas are designed based on one's qualities and also one's activities. Now, Bhagavad-gītā also states that one should perform the duties as per his varna and asrama based on his qualities and activities. Now, if we see, today we might see many who might claim to be Brahmanas, but they are not living as per Brahmanas, and they may be working for somebody for 12 hours or 14 hours for the money that they are looking for. They are not Brahmanas, but they may be claiming themselves to be Brahmanas, but they are Shudras. So Kshatriyas have the duty of protecting their kingdom, and that is their primary duty. So all the duties that are given are based on their activities and qualities. Now, Kshatriya is also supposed to have a quality. Now, someone who is, claims to be born in a Kshatriya family, but he is not having the qualities of a Kshatriya, he is not a Kshatriya at all. So all these, the duties that one performs in these varnas, they all have their corresponding results also. Krishna also says that you have a duty to perform, but you don't have a right to enjoy the results of the work that you perform. Those results, we offer it to Krishna. That is the best way, because one does not become entangled in this material world. Now, these duties have two types of results. One is Shreyas and the other one is called Prayas. Now, Shreyas is the ultimate goal, whereas Prayas is the immediate. Now, normally if you see today, people look for immediate results. They want they work immediately, they want results, and they want to enjoy the fruits of that results. And which people look for is that some material opulence, some material happiness. So this is what is called prayers. And the Shreyas is that which is the ultimate goal, and that is that Vishnu is the center of all our activities. Where prayers is temporary, whereas Shreyas is permanent. So when one works for Krishna and offers the result to Krishna, that is the longest, that is the best possible way that one can perform his duties. Now, if we see here, Arjuna, he was forgetting himself on account of weakness of his mind. Now, he says that his mind is reeling. Now, basically, mind has two functions. One is accept that which is favorable to oneself and reject what is unfavorable. Now, it is on one's own self. One might think that what is favorable to him may not be favorable to him as per the other person. So one thinks that what can I do? That is, the mind actually dictates that yes, this is favorable. It may be right or it may be wrong also. So mind has two functions: accept that which is favorable and reject that is unfavorable. And it is always in a conflicting situation, right or wrong. So sometimes it is also given, example is also given that mind is like a monkey that keeps jumping from one branch to another in no time. So if you see in a forest, these days we don't see monkeys in the city also, but in holy places, if you go, you'll still find a lot of monkeys. And you'll see them jumping from one branch of the tree to another branch in no time. Similarly, the mind keeps jumping from one thought to the other. That one thought could be from the past, it could be present, and it could be future also. At one point, it might be dwelling on some happy state of affairs, and another may be on a very sorrow state of affairs. So, but actually, that mind itself is a dull matter. So, if you look at our body or the mind or the senses, they are all dull matter. They are all active because of the sense or presence of the soul in the body, which also will be coming in the next chapter. So, the mind is always in a disturbed of state of affairs, particularly in this Kali Yuga. We will see that one's mind is always disturbed, whether it is at his home or whether it is in his workplace or in his social atmosphere or wherever it is. The mind is always disturbed because that is how the Kali Yuga is, and it is very difficult to control the mind. Arjuna himself is telling to Krishna in Bhagavad-gītā, Chanchal hi mana Krishna. The mind is very restless, it is turbulent, obstinate, and very difficult to control. And he says it is more difficult than even controlling the wind. But the Lord replies that one should do it by suitable practice and by detachment also. So one must deliver himself with the help of mind and not degrade himself, which we see here in the case of Arjuna. Arjuna's thought was, he thought it is not right for him to fight in the battlefield. But as a Kshatriya, he is bound to fight because he does not have a kingdom to fight. Now, kingdom is not, if Arjuna thinks that he will sit in, like the way here you mentioned that he ultimately wants to go to the forest, but by going to the forest, he's not going to get his kingdom. So ultimately, if he has to perform his duty, he has to get a kingdom for which he has no other option but to fight. And this was their Pandava's legitimate right to have that kingdom. So in this case, Arjuna is degrading himself by the mind. So mind is always, it is said that a friend of a conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So one who has conquered his mind, the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. So mind can be both a friend as well as an enemy. So in this situation at this point, we find that Arjuna is reluctant to fight, basically because he thinks that he does not want to fight out of compassion for his friends and relatives who are arrayed in the battlefield. So now he says, I'm not able to stand any longer and I'm forgetting my own self. We will see this situation also in our own lives, day-to-day basis. We come across many conflicting situations, conflicting circumstances, where we might think that what shall I do? I'm confused all the time, whether what I'm thinking is right or what I'm thinking is wrong. So might be always in that duality. And it is mentioned that all these things happen because one has got excessive attachment to material things or material affinity. They have a lot of material affinities. Now, there are different types of attachment. Actually, if you see, the soul does not suffer all these. It is only the mind that creates a situation within us about the particular problem. Now, as long as we are conditioned in this material world, we are always subject to 4 kinds of imperfections. That is, we are sure to commit mistakes, we become easily illusioned, we have imperfect fences, and we are likely to be cheated on, we are likely to cheat also. So one of them is that we become easily illusioned. And this illusion in the case of Arjuna is his attachment to material things like his body, his skins, and his relatives. And it is said that we have too many attachments because of which our mind is always, we are attached to our body. Now, it is said that there are 5 types of attachment that one develops in the course of their lives. The first is one's own body arising from spiritual ignorance, that is color, beauty, skills, etc. Now we see sometimes we might call ourselves as an Indian, or someone might call himself as a European. Somebody might say he's an American. All this identification comes actually based on our identity, on color, our beauty, our skills, etc. But factually, if we look at, all these have no relevance at all in today's world. Maybe somebody might say that I'm from Europe or America, I'm very opulent and I'm rich and have a lot of beauty. But where is this beauty or opulence? Because if we see in today's world also, what one has got, um, let's go for an example like this. There are many who are not really qualified, but they have got so much of wealth, they have got so much of opulence, etc. So if it is only a criteria of one's education or skills, how come one who has not studied, he's got a lot of money, he's involved in business, even if he doesn't want money, money keeps coming, or he keeps getting a lot of opulence, etc. Someone may be looking very, very beautiful, but at the same time, materially he may be poor. Now, the same thing, if we look at beauty itself, one's beauty does not last his lifelong. One looks very beautiful in the youth, and as one ages, wrinkles start coming in the body, and at some time or other, the beauty that is there is also lost. And what about the beauty, even the opulence that one has got? One may be able to think that I'm enjoying whatever I have, but what happens to this wealth when one leaves his body or one dies? It is all gone in no time. So it is an illusion that one thinks that body is mine, all that belongs to me thing is mine. All these are temporary, that are given to us by Krishna himself based on our past activities, maybe in the previous life or the previous lifetimes. So one is the first is that one's own body arising from spiritual ignorance, that is color, skills, etc. The second is one's attachment to one's kith and kin, like family members, wife, children. Everyone thinks that looks at them in relationship to one's own self. Srila Prabhupada, our founder gives a very nice example. A mother goes to the school to drop her child and then bring the child back. But when she goes to the school, she looks for her own child. This is also due to bodily relationships. So everyone thinks of himself and everything related to the family only, my wife, my family, my children, etc. But if you really see, these relationships are not eternal. They are very, very temporary. Somebody might be a son in one lifetime, but as one dies, that is the end of the story. The next Bhagavad-gītā states that after one dies, he is born again. And that birth he takes again based on the consciousness at the time of his leaving his body. It may not be possible to discuss on that today. But the point is that all our relationships, they are all very, very temporary. Even those who consider that they are my wife, my children, one cannot say that they will take care of me through a lifetime. It will never be possible. So many cases, people have had to leave their families and go somewhere, and disputes, quarrels, so many things happen, due to which these relationships are broken very easily in these days of Kali Yuga. The next type of attachment is attachment to land, property, etc. My house, my factory, all these things are our attachment to these things. Fourth is knowledge of material science, which is a never-ending pursuit. Many people have attachment to sciences, which may be uh, looking true at that point of time, and may not be true also. For example, when they said that they have gone and landed in moon, Srila Prabhupada said they have actually not landed in moon, but they have landed in some other star. Similarly, and the last attachment is attachment to Vedic rituals devoid of God consciousness. So many times people are bound by rituals based on scriptures. Somebody might say that if you do this particular ritual, you will become beautiful, you will become rich, etc. And they may be true also, because all these are given in the Vedas. But ultimately, believing in these rituals without understanding the purpose of it actually keeps one bound in this material world. So uh, uh, people get bound by it, and they don't know what is the purport of it. But ultimately, all these things, whatever I have discussed, one's own body, one's relations, one's material opulence, like maybe land, property, etc. Uh, all these things emanate from the Lord Himself. The Lord gives all these things to a particular person based on his previous activities, on his previous words, and they are all meant to be utilized in the service of the Lord, not for one's own sense gratification, which people are not common, people are not aware of. So they become attached to these things, and they become bound by this, and they work for the results generally, which is normally on the side of prayers. So what happens is that they are bound in this material world. In one life, they may do some work, and in the next life, they may reap the result. If somebody is pious, he may get good results in the next birth or the life after that. And one does impious activities, he may have to suffer also. So here Arjuna is expressing this thing that his mind is disturbed, and all these things happen when one becomes too much attached by material conditions. And another important point is that Arjuna could foresee only painful reverses in the battlefield. And he thought even by getting victory in this battlefield, he may be the river, the situation may be painful. He not only felt compassion for the soldiers of his army, but he also felt compassion for the soldiers of the enemy's army also. And the attachment to all these things sometimes can be very disastrous. If you look at the scriptures which we have with our own self, Dhritarashtra had a plan to kill the Pandavas and to deprive them of their property. It was due to his excess attachment to his own son, which was an illusion. And finally, what happened that the Mahabharata war took place due to his attachment, and Duryodhana died, and ultimately nothing happened. Similarly, Ramayana happened due to Kaikeyi's attachment to her son Bharata. Ultimately, all their exercises proved futile. In the case of Dhritarashtra, he ended up losing all his sons. And in the case of Kaikeyi, Bharata ruled in exile as a servant of Lord Rama. So that is why it is called that whatever we see, we may perceive, whatever opulence we may think that we have, it is an illusion that we have. So Arjuna was also in that illusion. Arjuna is actually a very great devotee of the Lord, but he was put into this illusory state by the Lord himself to teach conditioned soul like us as to what is real interest. And the Prabhupada in text number 30 mentions as to how one's real self-interest lies in Vishnu or Krishna, but the conditioned soul forgets this and therefore suffers material pains. So as I mentioned that we forget that we are all originally servants of Krishna, and our interest is to serve Krishna by performing our duties as a service to him. In that way, one becomes free from entanglement in this material world. Arjuna was put into this ignorance of his real self-interest by Krishna himself, so that Krishna utilizes Arjuna as an example to teach others. But otherwise, Arjuna was a liberated soul. He does not have to learn these lessons. The conditioned soul actually forgets this and therefore suffers material pain. So Arjuna was put into this condition, and he thought that by fighting in this battlefield, it would be more of a cause of lamentation for him. In text number 31, Arjuna actually says, I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. So here Arjuna has come to a state where he says that I don't know what is the use of my killing my own kinsmen. Now, unfortunately, on the other side, they were all his relatives and kith and kin, etc. And he has reached a state where he says, I don't desire any subsequent victory or even kingdom or even happiness. So Arjuna is put into this situation so that we also can understand that we also can be in this situation itself. Now, by natural constitutional position, we are bound to serve Krishna. Now, we are not meant for satisfying our own self. Whereas Arjuna's position is looking at his own self, not Krishna. One time, when Srila Prabhupada was in a place called Honolulu, so uh, many disciples asked him, so who are your children? Who are there to take care of? So Srila Prabhupada said, I have thousands of my disciples as my children who take care of me much better than my own material family. So in Krishna consciousness, we use the same affection, the service of the devotees, who in turn directs us to love Krishna. That relationship is eternal and continues in the spiritual world also. Now, whatever relations that we might see within our family will be temporary, but whatever relations we establish in the spiritual life, they are permanent because they last eternally. We might say that yes, even our Vaishnavas might also leave their body, etc. But a spiritual life and material life, there is a lot of difference. In material life, one gets what he has got, need not be continue the same in the next life. But in spiritual life, even you perform a little small amount of devotional service, that continues life after life and it is eternal. Devotee that's why it is said that even if he dies, a devotee comes for a higher purpose, leaves his body for a higher purpose. His life is eternal because the soul that is eternal. And whatever devotional service he performs, that is also is eternal. So the relationship in spiritual life is also eternal. It continues life after life. There are some very nice examples in the Shastras. For example, we find many years before in Puri, there was a king, the name of King Indradyumna. He was a very great, not only a great king, but he was also a great devotee of the Lord. And there was a time he did not want to have a son because he thought that it might be a bondage for him if he has got a son, that he may not get developed attachments for the Lord's service. So here is an example where the king doesn't want a family. He thought that it might become an obstruction into serving the Lord. But actually, it is not so. But if one is able to utilize whatever he has got, including his family in the Lord's service, that is the best possible perfection. So we see here in before I conclude the class, one should perform his duty without attachment, but generally we try to perform our work with the expectation of some results. So human nature is that we want always something or the other. So it is said that there are two types of people who attain the heavenly kingdom. One is those who perform, who live their lives in the battlefield, when killed by the enemies, and the other one is a yogi or a sannyasi. They attain by the sun planet, which is a higher planet, which has got much more opulence than the earthly planet, with longer life, more happiness, etc. Now, Arjuna says that even if I get that sun planet, or even if I get a higher earthly planet, I'm not willing to kill my enemies and relatives. He thinks by killing them, there would be no happiness in this life also, and therefore he says that I'm not willing to fight. Just for example, person is not hungry. He may not feel like cooking, but his duty is to cook, even if he has to cook himself. Now, a housewife cannot say that I cannot cook because she has to cook. Similarly, a child cannot say that I cannot go to school. Today, if you don't go to school, you cannot even put a signature. So everyone has to perform his duty. But as a Kshatriya, Arjuna requires a kingdom for his own sustenance, and he has to engage in fighting. So Arjuna's sole opportunity was for gaining a kingdom, and which can happen only by fighting with his opponents. So therefore, his consideration of going to the forest is a life of frustration, which is not right. So the time is up. I'm actually extended 1 minute more. With this, I conclude the class. I can take one question if you want with the time that may be left.